But first, and I don't want to get too excited about this because it's still early days, but there's a new trend among local councils that seems to be catching on. Councils are increasingly starting to ask residents what they want instead of simply imposing woke nonsense upon them. Now, it all started on Monday night when the Unley Council in South Australia voted to return Australia Day celebrations to January 26 after a poll of citizens found 60% of them had always wanted Australia Day celebrations to be on the traditional day. And tonight we can tell you that Rockingham Council in Western Australia has just voted to do the exact same thing. Now, Rockingham Council, like so many councils around this country, moved Australia Day celebrations away from January 26 without ever consulting ratepayers. But when they randomly surveyed 10,000 households, lo and behold, they were shocked to discover 63% of people had never wanted the date to be moved. And so this week, 10 out of 12 councillors voted to restore ceremonies to the rightful date. So it's a win for common sense and it's a win for representative government. Liz and Caleb, imagine if our representatives started surveying the people they represent as to how they would like to be represented. No. We could, in this country, come up with a brand new form of government called, I don't know, representative democracy. Just think, imagine the possibilities.
That sounds incredible.
I know.
How do I get one? This is amazing. And here's hoping it's a trend that really takes off. A lot of these councils surprisingly made this move last year when, of course, there was a lot of talk about the voice. And initially it was looking popular in the polls. So I think a lot of councils just took it upon themselves to assume we know what our people want. They clearly want the date changed. We're all virtue signalling in the direction of voting big fat yes at the referendum. Of course, as the months continued and the referendum day became closer and closer, it became very obvious in the polls that this thing had a snowflake's chance in hell of getting up. So you do wonder how many of these councils that has been part of the onus for them going, you know what, we probably need to revisit this. But hats off to Unley Council, hats off to Rockingham, because this is quite a humbling thing for a council to do. They don't then have to go back and ask the residents and then act accordingly. But it's interesting to note that in each of these instances, it was the residents getting in touch with their councillors. Yep. I used to be a city councillor. Seriously, people, smash them with your emails. Get in there. Numbers matter because it drives them to take action like this and, yes, even reverse their own decisions.
Well, you know what? I mean, most of the correspondence councillors receive, as you would know, is from wackos, usually busybodies who send 10 emails a day to complain about things. So we need more normal people to come out and say what they actually think.
It's true.
I think what's happened here is that people are actually starting to feel more comfortable to say that they like Australia Day.
Yeah, they've been emboldened.
And the moment I think all of this turned was January this year, when, of course, Woolworths decided that they wouldn't have any Australia Day paraphernalia for sale in their supermarkets. And there was quite a public backlash that then forced Woolworths to actually stock some gear and say, oh, no, we never meant that in the first place. Don't worry. I mean, rubbish. We know what they were trying to do. But it was the first time I feel like people actually stood up and said, no, we want Australia Day to be celebrated on January the 26th. And I think that's emboldened people to actually come out and say what they think. The Voice has probably played a small part in that as well, because it was proof that the silent majority is actually the majority, even though most of the media was taken up by people saying, must vote yes, you must vote yes, etc., etc. The activists haven't taken any notice of it. They're just going hell for leather and pretending none of this ever happened. But real Australians are actually feeling like they can show a bit of national pride, and thank God for that. I just hope this catches on and other councils cotton on and go, well, hang on a minute, maybe we should commission a survey of our residents as well. What a novel idea, asking them what they want. Now, look, it is better if you do that before you make decisions instead of after making decisions. That would be ideal. But we must give credit where it is due to Unley and Rockingham for taking notice of their residents when they've come through with their views. And it's interesting to note as well that of the people who were polled in this survey by Rockingham, of the Indigenous people who were
Yes.
polled, even the majority of them said they would
Brilliant.
prefer Australia Day celebrations to be on Australia Day itself. I mean, how much clearer can it be? And let's hope it keeps going. There's a campaign going in Adelaide now after the Unley Council decision on Monday night up in the Adelaide Hills to get their council to reverse their decision. A bunch of residents have banded together. They're running a campaign. I think we've got a photograph here of some good local patriots.
The Ratepayers Action Group.
Where it is. There's even a petition that's gone around up there. 1,000 signatories saying that they want Australia Day back where it is. We need to see more of this because I know sometimes it can feel like you're swimming against the tide and that your vote really doesn't matter and your view really doesn't matter because everyone you hear in the media and your councillors and your politicians isn't taking much notice of what you're saying. But what we have here is concrete proof that we can actually make a difference. Ordinary Australians have to speak up about the things in which they are interested and the things in which they believe.